Good morning, good afternoon, good evening from wherever you're watching from. I hope you're having a great day. We've got a lot of interesting topics this week to cover. The first topic we've got is probably the most controversial. I'm curious to hear what you think about this. Yeah, we've got a bunch of different things going on. It's interesting to see um, how easy it's been for me to come up with these topics. Clearly, I get really irritated when I travel, um, and also, as I've said before, I think we're all very passionate about travel. We spend a lot of money, and we have a vision of what we expect the experience to look like, and when it doesn't pan out, then your sort of value for money factor starts to get greatly reduced. But also, it's just disappointing. We can only travel so many times per year, or in a lifetime. So yeah, it's been interesting. And if you have any controversial topics that you would like to throw out to the group to discuss, feel free to post them, comment down below. It is a little bit, well, if you comment now, then I will see it as we're talking today. Otherwise, afterwards, I think it takes like 24 hours for the chat, the live chat as we go timeline to upload. So, but nonetheless, we'll get there. We'll get there. Okay, so here's our topics for the day. So yeah, like I said, the first one, the dolphin encounters. But we've got some interesting things. So yeah, the dolphin encounters. Now, where I wanted to go with this is, of course, we know that the animals aren't bred to be placed in captivity. However, and I mean, this has come up in the last 20 years that I've been in the industry. This has come up a lot. It's come up from clients, it's come up from just people commenting in general. It's come up from um, the resorts, especially when I've been filming at a resort, especially if I'm going live. It's not uncommon for them to ask me to subtly avoid filming the dolphin area because they don't want it to be, I guess, advertised per se. There's a lot of stigma about it. There's a lot of passion and emotion around it. But what I have found out, having stayed at various resorts which have a dolphin encounter, a dolphin pen, I guess you would say, um, a pool area at the resort, I've spoken to the staff there and the marine biologists who basically look after the dolphins. And as much as any veterinarian would care about an animal, these people do. What they've said to me is that basically these animals, or these mammals, are um, captured in the wild. And I guess a better way of putting that is that they're rescued in the wild, is what they've been told me. And what they do is they bring them into captivity per se, to rehabilitate them. So if they've been injured, if they've been attacked, something, then what they'll do is they'll bring them into an enclosed area where they will then try to rehabilitate them. And depending on the amount of time that takes, obviously then releasing them to the wild, where for the last however long, they haven't had to go looking for their food, they haven't had to worry about predators, it can be a bit dodgy. And there's a lot of conflicting reports out there about whether or not animals released later on into the wild will survive, especially ones that are born in captivity, because apparently dolphins really like to get it on. They are busy, busy, busy people. And so, especially in Mexico, going to these, dolphin places, and the people always laugh because they say, we start out with one dolphin, and then you get two dolphins, and then once you have two dolphins, then you have five dolphins, and when you have five dolphins, then you have 15 dolphins. They're getting busy. So I guess my question to you is, I mean, there's certainly there's an opportunity for education whilst looking after these dolphins. Um, Doing these rides and the photos and stuff like that, is that uh, is just taking advantage of the animal? Um, this is where anybody who's on that side of things will say, yes, of course, it should just be observed. However, if you look at the big picture of things, would they have the revenues to maintain, the dolphin areas and stuff like that, if they didn't have all that revenue coming in, and especially from the photography and all that goes along with it? And also, it does give them people a chance to interact with a dolphin, whereas in any other aspect of life they wouldn't. I mean, anywhere you go, you'll find dogs, cats, but once you start to get to, ocean life, or or even, dangerous creatures like lions and tigers and bears. I mean, certainly here, living here in Canada, I've seen bears. I've been within 50 feet of them before. Um, but I guess it's fair to say, in Canada, we kind of grow up knowing you basically avoid it. And if you just don't ever get between a mama and her babies, because they will protect at any cost. So, let me know what you think. Thumbs up for the dolphin experience, or thumbs down? Um, should it be allowed? And if so, should it just be observational? Or should there be some sort of interaction with it, in a way that's, I guess I should have this on. Oops. Oh no, I didn't have the little sticky thing, pointy thing for this. Oh. Yeah, let me know what you think. Let me know what you think. I'm curious, because sometimes I feel like you'll get whole segments of people who are really against it, and then other times you get people who say, well, no, I did it, and I did it with my kids, and they had a great experience. And so yeah, it's controversial, but let me know what you think. I am curious. Okay, moving on to the next one, which is when you're at a resort. Okay. Let me roll that one back. In your home, do you take the sheets off your bed and wash them on a daily basis? And if you don't, then when you go to a resort, of course, they have the option. Now, you can have daily housekeeping, almost every resort. If they're changing the towels and washing them daily, should they also take the bed sheets off the bed and wash them daily? I don't know. I mean, certainly at home, I mean, I make sure that I'm clean before I go to bed, but when you're out at a resort in a hot country, then, you might be at, hot and sweaty and whatever else. Although, to be fair, I don't have air conditioning in my home, but most resorts in Mexico do. So I'm actually usually a little bit more comfortable at night in the hotels in Mexico. Bojangles is talking about the dolphins, saying, we booked Dreams of Adventures. Really excited to see the dolphins on the resort. They were moved the week before we arrived. It wasn't the end of the world, because you can walk to the dolphin discovery. Yeah, that's the great thing about Port Aventuras. This is located. So we have Cancun. Let's say Cancun at the top, and you have Playa del Carmen about in the middle, and then you have Tulum at the bottom. Well, Port Aventuras is about halfway between Playa del Carmen and Tulum. And it's a gated community, so you actually feel like you're going through the border when you enter. Taxi drivers must provide their ID. They get it when they leave, so it's very secure. Even for walking through, there's a gate that you have to go through, so it's very comfortable in there, and you can walk everywhere. If you want to go to Mexico but you're scared to go, or you have had a bad experience in the past, or maybe you're traveling solo and you want to have that extra level of security, Port Aventuras is a great place to go in and check out. And yeah, they used to have the Dolphin Center right at Dreams Aventuras. They changed the name, whatever, still Dreams Port Aventuras. And then they have a much larger dolphin enclosure in the middle of the sort of downtown area at the marina. What I do like about this is that it's quite large, so the dolphins have a lot more space to swim around and play and stuff like that. Although the one at Dreams Adventures was actually one of the largest dolphin enclosures that I've seen. And what was fun is if you walked across to the hotel next door, not the hotel, the restaurant next door, which is Latitude 20. I think it's Latitude 20. It had a good happy hour. It was a great place to go, good food and everything. And right outside that is actually where the dolphin area is, and it's totally wide open. Whereas to go onto Dreams, you're obviously going onto an all-inclusive property, so there's security and stuff like that. But on the Latitude 20 side, you could see the dolphins, and they're swimming around and stuff like that. And they would get little bits of seaweed, and they would get it on their nose, and they would huck it up onto the pavement. And so quite often you'd be sitting on the Dream side, and you'd see the dolphins over there, and you'd see somebody would pick up the seaweed and they'd throw it back in the water, and the dolphin would go and get it. It was kind of like playing catch, and then it would get it on the top of its nose and poof, back up onto the sidewalk. So their demeanor seemed happy, which made me, I was nice to see. I was happy to see. So yeah. Angelo talking about the beds. I make my bed daily, but do the sheets weekly. At a resort, I expect the same thing with fresh sheets weekly. Yeah. I mean, I think that a lot of the resorts, especially anything that's a 4 or 5 star, they've just moved to straight up every day. They change the sheets, make the bed and refresh them. It's just what they do. And if that's their habit and that's the easiest process for them to do, then whatever. I mean, personally, I don't think they need to be washed every day. Again, because again, you're in an air-conditioned environment, so it's not like you're sweating in the sheets. But yeah. Angela's saying you did like the dolphin excursion at Dreams Playa. Oh, okay. So on the north side of Cancun, lots of fun, and the pen they have for them is huge. Yeah, and it's actually part of the ocean, so they're not putting them into some artificial water environment. It's just a penned off area of the ocean there, and on a really nice stretch of beach too. So yeah. So yeah, that's the sheets. I wasn't sure what you guys would think about that one, but let me know. I think again, even the towels, like often if I use the towel once to dry off, not a big deal. Like I don't have a problem using it more than once. But again, I would hang out my towels 9 times out of 10. If we come back to the room in the evening after dinner, they've done turn down service, and chances are they've already taken the towel away and given me a fresh one. So, no shortage of towels, that's for sure. But that's pretty much just the way they do it. And Angela's saying at Secrets and Vivid, they had a card you could put on your bed when you wanted fresh sheets. Yeah, and also I know you were pretty deft with the app, and I know you would often message them and see, to let them know if you wanted extra coffee pods or what have you for the room. So with housekeeping at Hyatt Vivid, I'm not sure. I imagine it's the same at other Dreams properties. Haven't been to others in the last 6 months, but at Hyatt Vivid, through the Inclusive Collection app, you were able to go into housekeeping and you could message them. And if you say, for example, you were going on an excursion and you wanted to be able to have a shower and then get fresh towels and stuff, then you could tell them to come and do your room later in the evening, do turn down service, that kind of thing. Or for example, to come earlier in the day whilst you were out doing, breakfast and stuff like that. So it's kind of cool. Okay. Next one is, kids in the airport bag carousels. Oh, what's Tammy saying? Card is a good idea. Don't need to change them every day. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And I guess you figured out why I haven't responded to your message. Just doing a little live broadcast right now. So kids in bag carousels. I don't know the last time that I was at an airport waiting for my luggage where I didn't see a bunch of little kids, under the age of 5, running around the carousel, running on the carousel, climbing on the carousel, and also being generally in front of everybody when they're waiting for their bags to come out. Smaller bags, not a big deal. As long as a person's able-bodied, they can usually reach in, grab their bag, extract it, and then be on their way reasonably easily. Full-size bag, especially if you're like me and have a lot of camera equipment and whatever else that weighs a lot of stuff, or just a lot of shoes, ladies, we know who we are, then sometimes getting that bag is, depending on how it's located and if there's another bag around it, you kind of have to hurl that thing off of the carousel. And if there's little kids around, then you're trying to get your bag, especially if you've been waiting for a while, but you're also in that position where you're like, okay, well, I don't want to hit this kid, but also now I'm annoyed because I've been waiting for my bags. But now I'm annoyed because this kid's in the way of me getting my bag. So now I got to wait for it to go all the way around again, or I got to go racing around to try to find it. I don't know. That's just what I've seen. Yeah, I know you did. You told me about it. Which, I mean, it's good. It's convenient though, right? If you could just have a message, the ability to message them and say, hey, I don't give me any more regular pop. I only drink diet pop. Or give me, may I please have some Dos Equis, but no Corona. I don't like Corona. Or may I just have pop, soda, instead of having any alcoholic drinks. Whatever you want, it's kind of cool if you can just go in and request that. So yeah. So yeah, going back to the airport thing, from a safety perspective, do you think that airports should have like just a painted line, which everybody's going to ignore anyways? But if you had just a painted line that said, kids can't go past this point from a safety perspective. And also, let's face it, isn't it easier if we all stand back? We can see when the bags are coming through, and then if it comes through, you see your bag, you know what color your bag is, people. Generally speaking, you've got some kind of identifier on it, a colorful luggage tag, maybe a ribbon on the strap. Of course, you want to make sure that that's tight to the bag so that it doesn't catch on the belt and mess up everybody else's bags coming through. But if you could see it, then you could simply step forward, grab your bag, remove it, and walk away. Like, wouldn't that be sensible, logical? I don't know. Oh. So blatant Canadian. I'm from Chicago, 50-50 if the kids survive when I grab my bag. That's okay. That's a funny one. That's good. I love it. Yeah, I guess. I don't know. It just, to me, seems logical. Like, just step back, people. Step back. Then everybody can see everything. Then you step forward. Otherwise, you got this huge line of people, and you're like doing this. Is that my bag? I don't know. I can't see. And then you're like, oh, excuse me. And then you reach the point where you're just like, get out of the way. Like, I want my bag. Oh, yeah. Airport fun. Don't you love it? Especially when it's late coming through. Like, you just kind of want to get out of there and get started on your vacation, right? Yeah, survival of the fittest and Darwinism. Yeah, 100%. Good times. All right, next one. Resort menu calories. Okay, so this was something interesting. The only resort where I've ever seen this is 𝖳𝗒Λ Preço de la Bonita, which is, I just read, is going to be reopening as a Marriott all-inclusive under Playa management. So that's the same management group that is the management team for Hyatt Ziva and Zilara Cancun. Okay, not Riviera Maya, not Riviera Cancun. Those are under, this is where it gets super fun and confusing. Riviera Maya, Riviera Cancun, those Hyatt Ziva and Zilaras are managed by the Inclusive Collection by Hyatt. Hyatt Ziva Cancun, Hyatt Zilara Cancun, those ones are managed by Playa Resorts. Okay, so it's a little bit different. Fundamentally, they're basically the same, and you'll see that they don't, the restaurants aren't called anything different, and it's still the same drill. You don't need wristbands, but they actually do now recommend that you make reservations at busy times, but you don't need to have one. It just means that instead of nobody having reservations and everybody waiting when they all show up at 7:30 to have dinner, that you can make reservations and then stop. Therefore, if certain people want to go a little bit earlier, a little bit later, then they can. Also, if you think, okay, or if you realize everybody at the resort is eating at 7:30, then perhaps you choose to have dinner at 8, or you choose to have dinner at 7, and then there's less inconvenience. So, I mean, that's kind of cool. But anyways, so yeah, so same as Hyatt Ziva and Zilara Cancun, same as Hyatt Ziva Cabo, same as Hyatt Ziva Puerto Vallarta, same as Hyatt Ziva and Zilara Cap Cana, and also in Jamaica, Rose Hall. The Paraiso de la Bonita resort is going to be under their purview as a Marriott product. And Marriott's got their own all-inclusive, and they've got their own separate management. So it's all it's all getting very confusing. But at any rate, I digress. Shocker. That resort was the only one that I had ever seen, which they were one of the forerunners in terms of showing you the menu and having it indicate if foods were gluten-free, vegetarian, vegan. They also had the calorie breakdown. So some of them would just say, how many calories it had, but others would also say like how many carbs, how much protein. And generally speaking, this was a much more expensive property. It was all-inclusive, family-friendly, but basically no kids because there's 0 activities for the kids. But therefore, a lot more sort of health-conscious people tended to go there. And also sort of, a lot of like, it wouldn't be uncommon to see somebody who you might recognize from Hollywood staying at that property, especially because of the nature of it being very small and boutique-y. Apparently, the prince of some Middle Eastern country stayed there once and had his own chef. And they cooked his own food because he was a prince, right? So he couldn't take a chance on having anybody else prepare his food. So there was like 10 people. They took one of like the last 2 or 3 villas, presidential suites, and took those over. So you get the sense of what they're providing here. So anyways, they did have the calorie breakdown, and it was kind of interesting because if you were conscious of that, it sometimes helped you to choose between one menu item or another. And I know, look, do you worry about calories when you're on vacation? If Dee Dee the dog, if you're watching, I know the answer to this question. I know that you do not. I know vacation time is time for you to indulge. And if he doesn't comment, it's probably because he is busy on vacation still in Spain and enjoying, as he said, all the tapas and sangria that he can. So it sounds like a great time, honestly. But yeah, I mean, if, for example, if you were going to have a dessert, you decided you wanted to have a dessert and you had a choice between a chocolate cake or churros, and you thought that the churros would be the lower calories of the two because it's a lot smaller, but then you found out that the chocolate cake is made with cocoa and blah, 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 and actually made in a very healthy way, maybe even with zucchini. I don't know if that's a thing in the US or everywhere else, but here in Canada, zucchini cake is a very common thing because when you grow zucchini in your backyard, it grows like weeds and they're massive, and you reach the point where everybody's got zucchini and you can't get rid of them for love nor money. But yeah, so zucchini cake, healthy and also less calories. But would that change your mind? Or would you rather just not see it? Do you think they should specifically not put the calories on the menu because otherwise it's just going to make you feel guilty and bad about indulging and having a steak with, a beautiful pepper sauce, peppercorn gravy, or a cheeseburger or something like that. Angelo says he's thumbs up. He said he would be for having it listed on the menus. I don't mind it. I mean, you know that there's lots of calories, and I, quite frankly, always find it a bit shocking to find out what the calorie breakdowns are. We used to have networking meetings at one of a born and bred BC restaurant, which is called the White Spot. And I was always shocked to see some of the calories. And it really, like chicken strips by comparison to the chicken Caesar salad. Chicken Caesar salad was skyrocket full of calories. And, so it was interesting to see the breakdown. So, okay, interesting. We have calories on all of our fast food menus, or at the very least, the calorie count must be available. The nutritional information must be either displayed at fast food restaurants, or it must be available via QR code or an easy website. So it sounds like it's the same there. But when you see it at a regular menu, I don't know if that's the case in the US or not. Let me know, Angelo. Like if you go to Dunkin' Donuts, they're probably going to have the calories. But if you go into what's a good sit-down restaurant in the US? Okay, well, Red Robin, you have Red Robin up there as well. Or what's the seafood one? The Red Lobster? Red Robin, Red Lobster. Two totally different restaurants. But if you go into one of those, would they have the calories? I'm curious. Pomero or Red Lobster? Oh, so they would. Interesting. Oh, Panera, sorry. Interesting. Yeah, so then, yeah, I suppose it would be useful to have it on the menus. Again, I do think that there's a certain faction who are not going to want to see it because it's just going to make them feel bad. But I think that why not? Okay, any restaurant that's 25 locations or more has to have the calories listed on their menus. Okay, well, there you go. Learn something new for the day. They say you learn something new every day. I'm done for the day. Woohoo! Cool. Yeah, interesting. Okay, so thumbs up on the calories on the menus. All right, now I do have a couple of other topics to discuss today. Now this one's come up recently because one of my colleagues, actually four of my colleagues, have just in the last 3 weeks been away at to countries abroad, obviously, which are somewhat more conservative countries, Morocco and Jordan. And there was some discussion beforehand about appropriate photography and inappropriate photography. And so my question to you is, before visiting a new country, do you double check the photography rules and regulations? I'm curious about this because it differs wherever you go. So, for example, here in Canada, you can take pictures of people, you can take pictures of things, and as the photographer, you own the right to that photo. Obviously, you cannot use it to try to trickily show that somebody is endorsing something that they're not, or that you're engaged in business with somebody when you're not. But if you see a person looking tired at a bus stop and you're lamenting about the bus system in Canada, which is actually not too bad, which is it's a big darn country and there's just not a lot of people in it, so that presents a challenge. But if you wanted to signify your story or your blog or whatever with that picture, you could take a picture of somebody and you could use it commercially. It's not a problem. In the US, you can take pictures of people, calling it street photography, meaning to say, I don't want to confuse this. So in the US, the restriction is you can take pictures of people, you can take pictures of businesses, again, can't show the people portraying them as being involved in business with you, or showing favorism towards a specific product when in fact they don't. So you have to worry about defamation, I guess, or not defamation, but misrepresentation. But you can take pictures of those things. When you take pictures of private property, that is allowed, provided that you're standing on public property when you take it. So if you know somebody's got a beautiful house, or you find out that J-Lo lives down the street from you, and you want to take a picture of her and Ben, and maybe they're getting separated, maybe they're not. If you can see the house from the street, you can take a picture of it. If you have to step onto the driveway up to the gate in order to take a picture of it, private property. So you cannot take a picture. Flip over to Europe and it gets a little bit more complicated. England is different than the rest of the EU because it's not part of the EU. England, it's like, so you can do, okay, this is where I was going with this whole thing called street photography. Street photography is basically, if you wanted to take a picture of this setup. So you take a picture, and I'm in the picture because this is where I am. If you take the picture and I'm in it, that's okay. If you then want to use it for commercial purposes, that gets tricky. Most buildings are okay, but then when you flip over to Europe and into the EU, Austria seems to be the most strict in terms of what you can and cannot take photos of. Like basically, and the same as Spain, I believe, where the person owns their rights to their image. So not only can you not take pictures of them, but you can't use them commercially. It starts to get a little fuzzy. So if you're going to one of these countries, Dee, if you're there and you're taking pictures, do your own research, because it also changes. It can be different from each and every country, depending on what their national rules are. And some of these things can face pretty hefty fines, and some of them can even face jail time. So you do want to be very cautious about what you're taking pictures of. Hey, Frenchie, thanks for tuning in. We're just talking about photography in foreign countries, and if you check the rules before you go and start snapping away. So for example, South Korea, you can photograph men apparently, but you cannot photograph women unless you have their consent. And that's women of any age, even if they're in public, because it's considered sexual aggression. The penalty looks like it's about $7,500 US, with the potential for up to 5 years in jail. So yeah, definitely one to look into before you go and start taking pictures. Oh, fabulous. That was my exact next country to talk about. So yeah, Frenchie's saying you used to live in the UAE, so I know you weren't allowed to take pictures or video of anyone without consent. Yes. So in the UAE, palaces, government buildings, even certain bridges, you're not allowed to take photos of. No, okay, so they're saying that in some certain areas, part of it's due to superstition, and some of this does relate back to religion and superstitions and stuff like that. And you could face either jail time or a fine for taking unauthorized photos. So it's not just using the photos, posting them on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, whatever, posting your videos on YouTube. It's just also sometimes the simple act of taking the photo can get you into big trouble. I was going to talk about North Korea, but I mean, your restrictions are, it would be easier to list what you're allowed to do in North Korea than what you can't do. Japan, same thing, certain temples and statues you can't take pictures of. And then Algeria, going down into Africa. You can photograph men with their permission. You can photograph women with permission from their husband or their father. And then also certain buildings require permission. So everywhere you go, and especially Brazil apparently has a lot of restrictions. I didn't have time to read up on all of that, but yeah. Frenchie's saying, to be fair, there are restricted areas in the US. Yeah, we can't take pics of either. Typically government, federal buildings, etc. Yeah. Yeah, so just maybe as coming from North America, where we're pretty free with this stuff, especially here, like I said, in Canada, there's probably some areas. I mean, obviously, when you're going through the airport, you're not allowed to take, and this is really any airport. When you're going up to customs and immigration, when you're going through security, you're not allowed to have your phone out. You're not allowed to be on your phone. You're not allowed to be taking pictures. Well, it's not difficult to go through Instagram and go like hashtag Cancun airport and see a bunch of photos. Allowed to take them? No. Signs everywhere that say no cameras, no photos allowed. People still do it. But it's worth checking ahead of time because and also just asking permission because it's just I think it's the right thing to do, especially if it's anybody who's like police or military. In my sad ability to speak Spanish, years ago, I was at Cancun airport, was flying home, and there was a guard there, and I wanted to take his picture, so I kind of had my camera, and I said like "con permiso," like with permission. I don't know if that's the right way to say it or whatever, but he was like, "Oh, sí, sí, sí," and then he says, "Oh, you speak Spanish?" I'm like, "That's it. That's all I know. Gracias. There you go. I'm done. I'm out." You know, but you try, right? Try to educate myself before going to foreign countries that way. I'm not letting myself in jail over petty things or paying crazy fines. Yeah, I mean, that's a really good point. And I went to Spain a couple years ago for the first time, and I was surprised about this whole street photography thing. And I really wasn't sure how I was going to be able to use those photos and videos or if I could. So it's a bit tricky. Oh, cool. Oh, going to Zalara. And that's Hyatt Zalara Cancun or Hyatt Zalara Riviera Maya? I'm curious. Um, wow, nice. It's hot, hot, hot there. Lucky you. Jealous. Especially, I think Tammy and I have pretty much resigned ourselves to the fact that this last minute standby cruise to Alaska is not happening. I did a video on it. It's Holland America. You pay a stupidly low rate to go to on any last minute cruise, but obviously you want to be within like easy driving distance of the departure port. And so we signed up for a cruise to Alaska, and we can see how many cabins are still available, and it's entirely waitlisted. In fact, the 10 cruises before it are completely wasted, and the further out it goes, they're all getting waitlisted. So if you're planning on doing an Alaska cruise this summer and you haven't booked it yet, book it now because otherwise you're not going. These things are selling out like crazy. I don't know why this year is so insane compared to others, but yeah, it's just nuts. Hyatt Zalara Cancun. Okay. Been to Zalara Riviera Maya. No desire to go back anytime soon unless the rates are too crazy to turn down. Yeah. Yeah, the rates everywhere are getting pretty crazy. So, that's why, especially for those of you who are on the fence about Hyatt Vivid, obviously it's once everything's up and running, it's going to be amazing. I thought I had a great time when I was there, but they still have lower rates than what they will have. And depending on how you book it, the rate is fully cancelable, like fully refundable. So book it now while the prices are low and get those great rates. So you can, take advantage. Yeah. Yeah. I presume you mean regarding those Alaska cruises. Yeah, it's just crazy. Those prices are nuts. How does a cruise experience compare to all-inclusive resort experience? I've never been on a cruise. Okay, to that, I would say that the first and foremost advice that I can give you is whatever you do, I don't know where you live, Frenchie, but if you live anywhere on the West Coast, you will be tempted to do a short repositioning cruise. This would be usually San Diego, San Diego, LA, San Francisco, and then it comes up. You might stop in Astoria, Oregon, Seattle, Victoria, British Columbia on Vancouver Island, and then stop in Vancouver. This is not the way to experience a cruise. The reason is because it's the beginning or the end of the season, and usually what that translates to is it can often be the beginning or the end of a cruise worker's contract. So, of course, somebody's at the end of their contract, they're like, "Oh, I just need to get through this. I can't wait to be finished and go see my family or get on to my next job, whatever, blah, blah, blah." But they're in that mental transition mode, right? If they've just started, then and you ask for a drink, they may not know what it is or how to make it. You're going to have some hiccups along the way. So it's tricky. Yeah, definitely look into it. Okay, so East Coast. So you'd be more likely to see something like Boston, New York, up to Quebec, which goes around the Maritimes. So you go past Nova Scotia and New Brunswick and stuff like that. Or you could just skip that and go down to Miami, Florida, and do a Caribbean cruise, or there's Mexico cruises, or you just fly up to Vancouver, Seattle, and go to Alaska. Okay, so the experience, to answer your question, it's very different. The cruise line, the cabins on a cruise ship will be about the same size as a large bathroom at a resort. In meaning to say, when you're at a resort, there's lots of footprint, there's lots of space. So you have a large room, probably 700 square feet, and then you'll have a nice large bathroom, spacious. Whereas on a cruise ship, the cruise ship cabin might be 300 or 400 square feet total, including the bathroom, including the balcony. So it's yeah. Tammy's saying, yeah, there's a little bit more busy than all inclusive, more places to see is a benefit. Yeah. I mean, you don't have to pack and unpack. So, and Tammy's done 2 back-to-back cruises in Europe. The hotel rooms are really small anyways. So imagine having your big suitcase and having to, you want to go to see, let's say you go to Rome. You start off your cruise there, Civitavecchia. So you get there, get in your hotel. Now you got to pack up all your stuff, or either that or you're living out of your suitcase for 2 weeks. Pack it up, and then now you're down to Palermo. Then and you carry on, and you go like each day. Not necessarily each day. You're going to have some days that are at sea, so that's slower pace. You can just do what you like. But otherwise, you wake up and boom, you're in a new port. You're in a new country. It's kind of cool. Food is equally as good as an all-inclusive for the most part. The only difference is they tend to have like a main dining room, which will have a set number of items, and that menu does tend to change every day. Whereas in an all-inclusive, you will tend to have more a la carte restaurants, which are featuring more specific themes for each one. But those are included, whereas on a cruise ship, a lot of times those are an extra charge. Also, a lot of times the drinks aren't included on a cruise ship. So then you have to buy a booze package, and that adds up. It's usually 40, 50 bucks a day, American. So depending if you're drinking, and I don't mean just alcohol, okay? If you want pop or soda out of a can, that's not included. If you want anything other than regular drip coffee, that's not included. Sometimes juice is not included. Sometimes bottled water is not included. So if you have a drink package, it includes all of those extra things. So, it's if you want to do a cruise, like I used to hate cruising. And, other than the fact that you'd wake up in a new place, but I'm kind of warming up to it a little bit more. I can just hear my husband cringing. No, don't go there. Don't go to the dark side. But it's a neat way to see a bunch of different places. And especially if you do some of the smaller cruise ships. If, for example, the one that Tammy and I are doing next year is going to go into some different ports that a lot of the big cruise ships don't go into. And Frenchie, I would also recommend for your first cruise, don't get on a ship that's like a Royal Caribbean massive ship with 6,000 other guests. Go for one of the medium-sized one, in the one or in the sort of 2,000 maximum capacity range. That way you're going to be able to easily get off and on the ship. You'll easily be able to access the dining rooms, the bars, go and see the shows in the evening. They have activities throughout the day. And what's really cool is they have an itinerary for you. Each day you get this big piece of paper, which I probably have one around here somewhere, which shows you all of the activities that are going to be happening the next day. So you get your highlighter out and you can mark them up and say, oh yeah, for sure, bingo, going to be there for that. Okay, 2:00 is top deck music trivia on the big screen because they actually have a movie screen up there. Maybe you want to watch one of the movies that they're playing. It's a lot of fun. So yeah, for sure. And yeah, Christine's here. Hello. Likes the cruising, like my space, multiple pools, and a shower that I can actually move in. Yeah, okay, so the bathrooms on a cruise ship are quite small. And if you're a larger person, like larger, it can be challenging to, I mean, there's lots of larger people who cruise, and I don't mean plus size, I mean like next level plus size. And they love it. They love it because they don't have to, again, drag their luggage everywhere. There's elevators everywhere. So from an accessibility perspective, it's easy to get around. And like I said, there's lots and lots of stuff to do. All-inclusives have lots to do, but it's a lot more active things to do. Maybe a silly question, but do ships include complimentary Wi-Fi? No. Okay, what's transitioning is now a lot. So Norwegian started this. Norwegian started having all of this stuff included, which historically has always been an extra charge and a pretty whopping extra charge. Norwegian, before COVID even, came out and said, okay, free drinks, free gratuities. And cruise lines do it a little bit different. I'll talk about that in a second. And that was actually one of my questions, random topics. Yeah, they were including the booze, they were including the gratuities, they were including specialty dining, usually, not every night, but a couple of nights during the cruise, as well as the free Wi-Fi. And sometimes even a shipboard credit, which you could use to go shopping or even in the casino sometimes. And so, obviously to remain competitive, some of the other cruise lines started jumping on with this. So with all of them now, and now what a lot of them have done is they've said, okay, well, we don't want to just go to where we're including everything, because there are people who go cruising who don't drink. There are people who go cruising who are not legally able to drink because they're under 21. There are people who go cruising who don't want the specialty dining. They love the buffet. So what some of the other cruise lines have done, specifically, Holland America, Princess, pretty much all of the others, is they have an optional add-on package, which includes all of those things. Some of them even have further breakdowns where you could just get a juice and soda package or a juice, soda, coffee package versus getting, Wi-Fi and drinks and food and all that stuff included. So there's lots of different options. And then, Christine's saying Virgin. If they ever, yeah, they do have, theirs is weird though. I would say check out Sea Lake Journeys. I've done a couple of collabs with them and they have cruised Virgin. I think they live in Florida. And so obviously with their channel name, they're all about cruising. And that, as I say, they have cruised, they have done their drink package, but they can explain it better to you, but it's very different the way Virgin does it. That said, Virgin is a much more higher end airline, cruise line, and also it's adults only. So I think you would like that. And it sounds like they have a lot of fun for activities and stuff like that. Frenchie saying, appreciate all the feedback. Always wondered what it was like on a cruise ship. Thank God I'm not a larger person for the shower. Oh, for the, I don't have my glasses on. Yeah. So, oh, for the shower. Yeah. So, yeah, I think it's interesting. Now, one of the questions I was going to say is, so for years, cruise ships have basically said they've dictated what the gratuities are. So they call it gratuities, and they have it at a set amount. If you're staying in a regular stateroom, it might be $10 a day. It varies by not cruise ship, but it varies by cruise line. And then if you book a suite, you might pay $5 extra per person per day. So it might be $15. I think then most of them have bumped up, and some of them are now $20. It's not mandatory, but I mean, it's a bit like going out for a nice steak dinner and then having the person hand you the machine to go in and pay your bill, and you hit 0% or you hit no tip. Like, they're kind of expecting a tip. But what you can do with the cruise lines is you can actually go to the customer service desk on the last day or the second last day, and you can tell them to not put the gratuities on your automatically on your bill, but you can then pay cash instead to people who you think deserved it. The reason that cruise lines have always done it this way is because this way they distribute the funds based on their customer interaction experience, and not the experience, but based on the amount of customer interaction that they would have as an employee. Is it fair? I don't know. I mean, but my question to you is, should the cruise lines continue to do this, or should they make it like an all-inclusive resort where tipping is up to the guest? And let's just be clear, like when a resort says tipping is included or gratuities are included, what was the thing? Yeah, so there's some resorts out there that say tipping is included. I've been to those resorts. I have seen people tipping and them accepting tips. I have been to those resorts where they say tipping's included and have not tipped on the guidance of my business development manager or my sales rep, and then gotten really bad service. So, so yeah, tip. Yeah. And I've also been to resorts where I don't see other people tipping, and then generally speaking, those are the ones who are complaining the most about service. But I should also say that, sometimes when we don't see somebody tipping, it doesn't mean that they're not tipping. A very wise person, when I was at the Hyatt Ziva Riviera Cancun when it had first opened, I mean, you're kind of isolated at this property, and I was getting really annoyed because I was running out of small bills, because we would tip every round of drinks. And you stand by the pool, tip, 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 tip every time you have a drink. I'm running out of small bills. I'm going to have to get a taxi. It's going to cost me $60 round trip to go into town, to go to an ATM and get some money. Or I can use the ATM at the hotel, which always has a ridiculous fee because it's a private ATM. It's not a bank-related ATM. And this other couple we're chatting with, they said, oh, well, she says, my husband gives the guy $20 when we sit down in the morning. Well, he checks to make sure this is his section for the day. And if that's the server, he or her, where they're working for the day, her husband gives him $20 at the beginning, and then give him a little bit more later on in the day if its service is amazing. And I'm like, well, I got lots of 20s, so that makes a lot more sense. So sometimes you don't see people tipping all the time, but maybe they fronted right at the beginning. So you just never know. Glad you brought up tipping. You need to go get some singles. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, well, they say they're not supposed to take tips, but what they do or don't do when their manager's not looking is, people are people. And it's difficult when somebody's standing there going like, "Oh, here, I'm going to tip you. If every time that you give me a drink and you make it just the way I like it, I'm going to give you $5. You have the potential to make a whole lot of extra money." So, yeah, exactly. Yeah. And now, like I said, I've just found that doing that upfront tipping means that that sort of cash outlay is sort of sorted. It's also useful to find out at the beginning, if you're at the swim up bar, for example, and there's 3 guys or 3 people, men and women, that are working that bar, do they tip share? Right? If do they pool their tips? And they're usually pretty free to tell you this stuff. It's not a secret. But if you know that they're going to pool their tips anyways, then why not just give them money at the beginning, and then you're covered. You don't have to worry about your small bills and stuff like that. Yeah. Look out for those who look out for me. Yeah, for sure. Well, goes around, comes around, karma and all that good stuff, right? So yeah, it's just do the right thing. And one of the things that I've always said is, look, if we can afford to travel, we can afford to, pay for things and throw some tip money around and put some money into the local economy for sure. So yeah. So, no, I think there was something that came to mind that I was going to talk about. Well, we could actually talk about tipping next week. That would be an interesting one. Just in general, like how much to tip. I would be curious to see what your thoughts are on that, especially in different scenarios. Like, how much do you tip for housekeeping? How much do you tip for the guy? I always say the guy, just because 90% of the time it's the guy, but it could be a woman who brings your bag to your room. How much do you tip for room service? So save that for now. Think on that, and we'll talk about that next week. And I'm curious, because if you ask directly, nobody ever really wants to say. But I'll also post that in my community post this week, because then and tune into that, so that you can see kind of what the answers are and stuff like that. But it's on my community post, I tend to set those up as a bunch of different answers. So you can select an answer, but you're not necessarily identified. So it's a little bit more anonymous that way, as opposed to saying, "Oh, I tip this much," or "I tip this much," which, sometimes you look like Rockefeller, and other times you look like, are you coming to the party or not? Yeah, tips at resorts, always crazy conversation on the Facebook groups. Yeah, it really, really is. Talk about a passionate topic. Holy moly. Looking forward to the conversation next week. Good stuff. Yeah. So, well, I hope you've enjoyed this today. It's always really interesting for me to hear from you and to hear, where you're from, and Frenchie, especially the fact that you lived in the UAE is like, wow. So it's great to have such a diverse group of you who tune in, and I really appreciate the comments. Oh, and so if you haven't already done so, go on and hit that thumbs up button. And if you haven't already subscribed, please do so, and hit the bell, hit the bell button so that you get notifications. That lets you know when I'm live. Also lets you know if there's a new video that's come out, so that you don't miss out on it. I mean, of course, you can always go to my channel, and that's again where you'll find a community post. I try to post something every day, just another little travel topic, because we all love talking about travel, don't we? So yeah, but go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button, please. It really helps out the channel. Oh, thanks. Thanks. Well, I appreciate you being here. And we'll ever touch on travel cards? Well, yeah. I mean, the problem with that is that I'm in Canada. So for like my travel cards, I've MasterCard, which is brilliant. But what I really need to do is I need to check out the I think it's a Chase credit card where I could potentially get Hyatt points. Because if I can get free stays, that's better. Because as much as I love doing the videos, and I love going on vacation, of course, so that's a twofer for me. But and do you use that term in the US? Twofer? You must. Two for one kind of thing. We call it a twofer. Anyways, yeah, it's expensive to travel. And but I love sharing the different resorts that I go to and stuff like that with you, so that it gives you a little bit more information. If you're planning a trip to these locations, then you can check them out and see what you think. Angela's saying he has the Hyatt Chase credit card. Yeah. I need to check into that, because I think there's an opportunity there. And if I could go to more Hyatts, then giddy up. Yes, definitely. Thank you, everybody, for joining in today. And oh, Christine's saying, oh, United. Yes. For everything, like paying for my airfare with miles. Well, look, anytime you can pay for a portion of your travel with points instead of cash, that's a win, right? Definitely. Oh, and then I can book Secrets Ties for November. Tempting. I'll think on that one. I'll keep you posted. All right. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in today. And I hope you have a great week, a great weekend. And see you next Wednesday. Same time, same channel, 10 a.m. Pacific, and the rest. So we'll see you next Wednesday. Bye for now.